Today, of course, we're here to talk about Black entrepreneurship, some struggles, but I want you guys to not only talk about the struggles, but also some of the highlights of being a Black entrepreneur and some good takeaways that you feel the fulfillment that you get for being a Black entrepreneur. And even though, COVID has been a strain on a lot of Black businesses, let's kind of talk about some of the ways that we've overcame those struggles and how they may have benefited you as well. I want to give the panelists a chance to introduce themselves. So I'll kind of go ahead and give you guys the floor in order of appearance on the flyer. So I'll start with Miss Paula Farmer.
Good morning. Thank you, Eric. Really happy about being here. As you said, I'm Paula Farmer. Paula reached out to me as an adjunct professor at the American Baptist College, which is a small HBCU here in Nashville. As an adjunct professor there, I teach introduction this semester to entrepreneurial leadership, but I teach every semester as a part of our entrepreneurial leadership program, which I think next fall, it will have been in place a full 4 years. So that's what I do there at the school. I'm also an entrepreneur, been in business for 10 years as an HR consultant and an executive coach.
Okay. Thank you for that, Paula. Justin, we'll move to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Justin Key, pronouns he, him, and his. And very similar to Paula, I'm also an entrepreneurship professor. Got into entrepreneurship. It's expensive living in Los Angeles. So when in any industry, it's always great to have multiple streams of income. And so initially started a tutoring company in Beverly Hills, and then decided that even though, and entrepreneurs find in their journey how they best learn. And I realized that a more structured learning environment is how I learn best. So I went and got my MBA in entrepreneurship. And then that was able to really align the experience with the education. And then literally the light went off. And then so I've been able to teach students, being a millennial and teaching the younger or the lower end of the millennials, the creativity and the innovation and being able to bridge that gap of going from experience to education, ideas and crafting it. And so it's just been an incredible journey of entrepreneurship, and I'm excited to be here to share the stage with you all.
Great. Don, I'll pass it to you.
Great. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm also happy to see one of my board members here, Ms. Douglas. Good morning. I'm Don McCory, originally from Jackson, Tennessee, and I am currently the finance director here at the Jackson-Madison County African American Chamber of Commerce. Prior to coming to the Chamber 6 years ago, my entire career was spent in finance as a pension fund administrator and an operations supervisor in the Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia area. But Tennessee is home, which is where I moved back to in 2014. I find myself now in the position of serving and being a resource for entrepreneurs. And this was something that sort of fell in my lap by being associated with the right people. One of the programs for which we sponsor here is an entrepreneurship for children between the ages of 12 and 18 during the summer months. So I'm really excited about it and looking forward to a healthy conversation today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Don. Danielle, we'll pass it to you for your introduction.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Danielle McGee. I'm the founder of Black Business Boom and Black Owned Nashville. Black Business Boom is a social enterprise that supports digital entrepreneurship in Black communities by providing digital marketing, training, services, and coaching. And Black Owned Nashville is a network of over 1,200 Black-owned businesses located in and around the Nashville area. I also am an adjunct professor teaching entrepreneurship at Tennessee State University. I'm a Chicago native, now residing right outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and I live and breathe every day all things entrepreneurship, especially when it relates to the Black community. We are excited to announce that we've developed our own digital marketing curriculum to be able to teach entrepreneurs in the Black community about digital marketing and how to use it to grow and scale their business. And then we are also, as Don mentioned, we're working with kids as well. And we're rolling out a pilot program in January in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee, where we'll be teaching principles of digital marketing to youth between the ages of 12 and 18. So happy to be here, excited for the conversation.
Okay, great. Looks like we have a very qualified bunch. I know we have one other panelist that has not checked in with us yet, Carlos Partee. When he gets in, or if he gets in, we'll kind of pause and let him introduce himself. But I'll go ahead and get started with some of the questions for the panelists, and I want you guys to be as candid as possible. And I think this may be Carlos coming in now.
Yeah.
All right, Carlos, you're right on time, man. I just called on you. I just called on you to introduce yourself, so go right ahead, fall in.
Perfect. How y'all doing? I'm Carlos Partee from the Nashville Black Market. And Nashville Black Market focuses on empowering Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs and curating the family-friendly events. Our family atmosphere gives you the chance to network, eat, dance, and shop your values. I am a Nashville native. I've been in entrepreneurship since I've been in middle school, since I was a little kid working with my grandparents and great aunt and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, now that we have everyone here, so this first question is just going to be an open question. Feel free to volunteer, whoever wants to answer first. But what are the challenges and opportunities that Black entrepreneurs face in the light of the pandemic? John, go ahead.
Eric, there were, as you said, both challenges as well as opportunities.
Right.
The biggest thing that many of my members faced was trying to figure out a way of how they could rebrand their business model. There are things for which they were no longer able to do because they were limited in contact with their individual client base. For instance, we had some dry cleaners that could no longer serve the public, so they decided to do laundry instead of doing just dry cleaning. Delivery services were offered. Online services really skyrocketed. So they had to come up with a way to think, how can we stay in business? How can we keep our employees? Or how can we scale back our services as well as keep the doors open? Cutting hours, cutting staff, job sharing. There were a number of challenges for which they had to face. Opportunities was money. There was both money on the federal as well as on the local government level, which a lot of individuals didn't know about. And I believe later on, we'll talk a little bit about the payroll protection plan. But that was also available. And there is also money that is still available. I encourage all of you to check and read Executive Order 13985, which is about bringing money to minority and impoverished communities. So we have to get our local government commissioners involved in this project, our local NAACP, as well as all of our chambers of commerce. So that's what I wanted to share in that area.
And I'll continue with what Don said. And I work with a lot of grassroots entrepreneurs. And so one of the areas that the pandemic highlighted was the need to pivot and really understand technology and the creative digital world, which Danielle spoke about as well, which is what they're doing. Because now people aren't coming into places, outside was shut down. So it's like, well, now people are home, everything is happening digitally. Do I need a website? Do I turn into an e-commerce website? How are people paying? Then they were like, well, and then there's so many entrepreneurs. I think, there's a thing called Twitter LLC. And it's like, I'm seeing all of this advice being given. And I'm like, people are listening to this advice. I'm like, well, that's kind of illegal. And it's on a public forum. So one of the issues was trying to find the right information to be able to use to implement so that they can pivot to get the information to be able to shape and shift their products and services to get to a larger audience. So that was that was one of the issues that I saw initially in the pandemic, like from a lot of grassroots entrepreneurs, like, boutique owners, those that were offering certain services. And so they were trying to figure out, how do I continue to make money and things of that nature in the midst of, not having the traditional means of entrepreneurship.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
I'll just echo what Justin mentioned, that there was a huge opportunity for folks to go digital, but many folks didn't know how to. And so for years, Black business owners have been so dependent on interpersonal sales and knowing their customers and them coming in the store, and, and they didn't have to go digital with their businesses. And so there was really a mad scramble and folks trying to do that, but also being in a situation where they didn't have the funds to do that. So it was a struggle for a lot of folks. They had put it off because of the cost, and so now you're in a situation where you're not making nearly as much money and you're having to pivot and change your business model at the same time and be able to communicate with customers on social media when you're not used to doing that, and keep your Google page up to date. You're still working in the business many times. So those were a lot of struggles that people experienced. And then furthermore, as Don mentioned, Black businesses didn't get the PPP loan like other businesses did. It took us, and those that did, it took much longer in many cases. We didn't understand the process. We didn't have banking relationships. We didn't have accounting software, for our business. We weren't able to easily pull a balance sheet or, get our taxes together. We may not have filed taxes. So, there were a lot of challenges that were exposed with the pandemic, specific to Black-owned businesses. And, and many of them have been solved. We now see how important these things are. But it's just something that I'm consistently trying to educate our community on, the importance of digital and the importance of your financials. And first, the financials, like at the very least, get QuickBooks, get it connected to your bank account, and spend some time reconciling it monthly. Like if you can at least do those bare minimum things, you can be put in a position so that when the PPP loan or EIDL or Restaurant Revitalization Fund, when these programs are rolled out, you can take advantage of them. Because we took ourselves out, in a lot of ways, we took ourselves out the running for these things by not being prepared for opportunities. So, many of those things were just exposed by the pandemic.
Yeah. I definitely agree. And even like as far as my business, as far as like the event entertainment business, it kind of put a stop to a lot of things. We had to kind of refocus and find other ways to promote or even make money. So it gave us a lot of opportunity to plan for the future, but it also gave us the mindset of like, all this could be gone in a second. Like even with like social media being down for a day or two, it's like it makes you think, okay, how do I rearrange my process? How do I like attack my customers? Like it made you think about, I know Danielle's really good at this, but the email blasting, just staying in touch with your consumers and making sure that they know that you're there for them. The pandemic scared me a lot as far as like being an entrepreneur, but as a lot of you entrepreneurs know, like we keep going, we keep fighting. So yeah.
I was just going to add very quickly that offering services, my business grew actually. And I think even though that's a good thing, I think because of everything that was happening in the world with the killings and all of those things, a lot of my customers that I was already engaged in actually engaged in additional services. For example, my executive coaching that I offer grew a lot exponentially, right? And because 95% of those clients were white females, and they were asking questions like, what do I do? How do I support my Black and people of color employees when they see these things on TV and they come to work or they sign on to Zoom and they're totally checked out and all those kinds of things. So my business grew from that standpoint. But what I saw happening was with my friends and even family members was some of the things you all just mentioned. It was really hurtful. It's like, how do I shift? How do I continue to work? How do I use some other skills that maybe I haven't used before to now continue to feed my family? So that was very real. And it was, I think, Zoom fatigue became a big thing, not only for me, but for a lot of people. I didn't visit a whole lot with my clients even before the pandemic. Well, I should say my clients don't come to me. I have a home office, but they don't come to me. I go to them. So when the pandemic hit, we just shifted to Zoom, which I've been using probably for a few years, but that too in and of itself was very hard. I think being in front of somebody, those interpersonal skills, all those kinds of things kind of adds to the conversation, especially in the area of consulting and HR. And so what that did for me as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, was it really just gave me an opportunity to think about my mental health. It was very, and it still is, it's very tiring to have conversations day in and day out with my clients around equity, around diversity and all those things and all the questions. And one of the things I definitely push back on is not being somebody's teacher in that area. I push back and tell them this is work you have to do for yourself. But all of that, reliving things that I've lived before because we have the lived experience, it made my role as a consultant, as a coach, very hard, if I'm honest with myself. So that self-care, I had to kick it in 1,000% more to make sure I took care of myself.
You guys gave some great input, and as an entrepreneur, of course, I think the pandemic put a lot of people outside of their comfort zones. So, with that make you have, as an entrepreneur, you have to constantly adapt. And I think, with those challenges, the opportunities came as well. So since we're kind of on the subject of the PPP and a lot of the stuff that came out with the legislation, Don, this question is kind of catered towards you since you're kind of in government. What advice do you recommend for business owners regarding financial management that could help them be more in position to receive these type of governmental incentives?
Well, the very first thing that probably should have already happened, if it hasn't already, align yourself with a good accountant. Find a financial expert who can help you organize your records, define what records you need to keep, and be able to be current and diligent about filing everything you need to do. If you don't know the answer to the question, ask someone to do so. One of the things that we discovered was when the first round of loans hit, it was an extremely fluid process. It was quickly changing. Forms were revised. People were applying. There were delays. But they found that when they started the application process, the data that was requested, they didn't have. For instance, the biggest issue was you needed quarterly tax returns, your 990s, or you needed W-2s. But we don't have, some people are saying, well, we don't have W-2s, we have 1099s, unacceptable. So a lot of our churches who are members were not eligible because they paid their staff through 1099s. So it was a possibility of them finding other alternate sources. For instance, if you have a 1099, you can apply directly to the SBA, but you could not file directly through your employer. So they would only accept W-2s. But it was a tough process. We had a lot of individuals who got significant amounts of money based on their payroll. Some got a relatively modest amount of money on round one as well as on round two. But the critical issue was their records were in order. They had bank statements, they had bank reconciliations, they had their tax returns, and they were able to provide them directly to their respective banks. So if you don't have it already, please work with an accountant, work with a CPA, talk to financial experts. That's the only way you're going to be able to get it done. And it's the quickest way.
I'm done, and I want you to correct me if this is not the case, because my specific niche is entertainment entrepreneurship here in Los Angeles, and I always say I need I always have my clients to make sure that the people that they're dealing with are versed in entertainment in a way because of the certain tax deductions that our industry is allowed. Because it's, I mean, and this is not to throw shade, but shade on certain companies like H&R Block. When it comes to entertainment, there's a lot of different legalities and rules that we have to follow that a traditional financial entity wouldn't be as versed on. So I always say, depending on your industry, make sure that if your financial advisor or accountant isn't versed in your specific industry, either they can or look for something else. Is that still the case? Would you recommend that as well?
I think that that's an excellent idea because you have to be comfortable with whoever your tax advisor is. I strongly, suggest there are a number of minority tax firms. I was not aware of it, but there are a number of them, and they all have different specialties. But I think these are the questions that you ask when you start interviewing new companies. Do you have anybody that's versed in these, who's filed tax returns for X entertainment industry over the past 5 years? So yes, please, ask the hard questions, and we'll get someone that is specific to your needs.
Gotcha. I think definitely, as we kind of recap what you guys are saying, and I think Danielle spoke on this earlier as well, is that the accountability aspect of being prepared for the opportunities, right? I think the pandemic showed us that they do have resources out there, but they're not necessarily going to save us. No one's going to save us, right? So we kind of have to be prepared to save ourselves. So that's essentially, what I took from that. Does anybody else want to chime in, Danielle?
I do, just because I was just teaching this last night, so it's fresh on my mind. But, again, just doing at least the bare minimum. QuickBooks Online is like $12.99 a month. I believe the Wave app is free. I use QuickBooks Online. And so we hear this, I've gone through entrepreneur programs. I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years, and everybody tells you, get QuickBooks, get something. But they don't tell you there are things you have to do still. Like, it's not just as easy as get QuickBooks connected to your bank account and then you're all set to go, right? And so, like I said, at the bare minimum, spending some time in there every month, reconciling your transactions. So categorizing the work that you do. So it'll make it easier if you aren't going to work with a bookkeeper or, an accountant. When you do go to do your taxes, you can at least pull a good profit and loss statement or a balance sheet. All this stuff is built right in the system, but you still have to do things. And so for me, I finally just broke down and decided it's worth it to pay someone to do this. Many times as entrepreneurs, we're like, counting every dollar and trying to keep the money, but then it in the end, you're going to cause yourself a lot of frustration, and you may cost yourself some money, some tax penalties. Like, you don't know how it may hurt you in the end. So to find a bookkeeper that you may pay $250, $300 a month or whatever it might be, just to get them to go in and reconcile and do these things for you, it will pay off in the end. So we have to start to invest in ourselves and in our businesses and not just sit and count the profit, because you never know if the IRS comes for you, that profit can dwindle down really quickly, And so investing in doing the right things up front, and we can't keep using not knowing as an excuse. I absolutely agree that when you don't know what you don't know, and that's very true. But at least invest your time in knowing. So you should be watching things like this. You can find a lot of information on YouTube, Instagram, on social media, on Google. We can learn how to do these things for ourselves as well. But we have to, at the bare minimum, if you're not going to invest money in yourself, you need to invest time in yourself and in the growth of your business. All of your time cannot be spent working in your business, building whatever it is that you're building. you're going to hurt yourself in the end doing things that way. So someone who I was speaking with this week said, slow down to speed up. And that's what I encourage our Black business owners to do. Take the time, slow down, and then, plan, strategize on how you're going to grow your business and make sure you can even handle the growth of your business. Because if your revenue goes from $1,000 a month to $100,000 a month, and you don't have the proper systems in place, and you don't have your accounting in place, and your marketing and customer service and all these things in place, you're not going to even be able to deal with it. You're going to end up out of business, So we have to make sure that we are our true business owners, if that's what we're going to call ourselves, and do the things that real business owners do, take the time and invest in our business.
We'll see it. So you guys mentioned something, Danielle, you mentioned that we can no longer use the excuse of not knowing, right? And I agree with that wholeheartedly, especially in 2021, because you can find out just about anything if you want to find it out. So, but transitioning to, and this question is kind of framed towards Paula and you as well, Danielle. We all know that what you're exposed to at an early age, you grasp on to a little bit better. So if you're exposed to playing sports at a younger age, you're most likely going to be better at it when you're older. If you've been public speaking at a younger age in your church, or you did school plays, when you get a little bit older, it's not going to be as scary for you. So at what age do you think it's important to start introducing entrepreneurship to the youth, so that they're able to kind of lead the charge in the next generation?
I don't know if there's an age that is too young. I was reading up on that, and I read about a 4-year-old that started a lemonade stand because her grandmother had this awesome recipe, and she went from that at the age of 4 to the age of 13, selling her products in over 500 stores. And so growing up, I used to watch my dad do different things. And as a child, daddy's working, right? But I saw him and with a partner buy an ice cream store and a used car lot. And he used to buy and sell guns and different things like that. But I didn't really understand the business aspect of it, right? I just saw daddy doing those things. And, being a young Black girl, one of 4 children growing up in public housing, to me, I was just like, that's just the way he makes money. But as I got older, I began to reflect on, what my dad was actually doing, and asking questions, and why did you do this? And why did you open this? And why would sometimes you have meetings at the house? And I began to ask those questions. So as I began to grow older and after college and stuff, I decided, man, I want to do this for myself. So even with my students now who are traditional and non-traditional, which means they're fresh out of high school sometimes, and some are more mature, some even close to retirement age, I see that it's really not, for me, what I've learned, there's not an age that's like, what's the perfect age? I think for me, it was something that was internal. I began to get excited about watching other people be successful and watching the things that they were doing and having dreams of my own. And I'm like, man, I wonder if I could do that. Or I wonder, if I could talk to this person about how they're doing X, Y, and Z. And so even some of those kinds of questions that I've had, my students are now asking. So that's why we use a lot of different tools, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, and bringing in people who know way more than I know, or who know way more than we can find in a book. So having access to all of those tools and those resources, and just having an open mind about how you learn, I think is really the key. I don't think there's any specific age, but I do get excited when children, and I heard Danielle and what's the other gentleman's name, Don mentioned about having, I guess, leadership camps or entrepreneur camps for kids. And I think that is absolutely amazing. I think it's our responsibility to, if they're not interested, to at least bring that to them as an option, to talk about it, have conversations about it, take them to trips and, on field trips or whatever, and let them see this in action. So I think it could be at any age. I think curiosity and desire, and again, like me having that when I was young and not even being able to understand until I was older what a gem that was to see my dad do those kinds of things.
Don, hey, everybody, my name is Charles Adams. Don, can I chime in for a second?
We were
Don,
gonna take questions at the end, but go ahead, Charles.
yes, thank you. So my name is Charles Adams. I just want to make a brief introduction of who I am. I'm the president and chairman of PDG Professional Development Group here in Jackson, Tennessee. And our pretty much mission is to make sure that individuals have access to resources, rather starting, expanding, or acquisition of a business. One of the things that we're focusing on right now is a partnership with a local middle school, North Parkway Middle, and we have what they call a professional development club that really focuses on job, career, and really specifically entrepreneurship development. And it just speaks to the importance of business etiquette, understanding finances, understanding the importance of personal credit. Because when you look at it, at the end of the day, our biggest challenge in trying to build wealth is the lack of credit worthiness. So when we look at how we rank in ethnic groups, we rank very last when you think of Caucasians, Hispanics, the Jewish community, Asian community. When it comes to credit worthiness, we are last. So we definitely need to start speaking to that at an early age. And the sooner we get our children to understand the importance of credit and how money works, the better off we'll be, and we can change the trajectory of generations to come. So I don't think there's an ideal age, but like I said, our focus now is going into the middle school. And one of the things that the African American Chamber does that Dunn helps facilitate and do an excellent job is the Follow Me Into Business program. So thank you, Dunn, for that. But in terms of a specific age, I think the earlier, the better. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you, Charles. Like I had mentioned earlier, I've just been around entrepreneurship all my life. Maybe not the right entrepreneurship sometimes, or even the right entrepreneurs, but it gave me that mindset, and it gave me something that clicks. And even like what Charles mentioned, right now I am part of a program that is in high schools and metro high schools. And pretty much what we're doing is we're creating a Shark Tank for high school students. And pretty much what we're doing is taking them through an accelerated course to where they can learn how to build their business and pitch their business at the end. And they'll win $1,000 at the end, and they'll win a booth from our event and a few other things. But we're looking to, get a lot more community members involved. That way we can constantly show them that this is possible, and hopefully get into more schools. That way it wouldn't be just for this one particular school, because right now it's in East and Hillsborough. So yeah, I definitely agree. It's not an age limit. As long as they've been sparked, that idea has been sparked in their head, I feel like they can start at any age.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I think it's just important that children are exposed to success and whatever that success looks like. And so Carlos said exactly what I was thinking. So this is a candid conversation. So, and I'm pretty candid all the time. I saw kind of both ends of the spectrum as I was a child. That my grandmother was a very successful Black woman. She was the president of a Black-owned bank. So I saw what it looked like to go to school and get a degree and get a good job and, and make money and be, have floor seats at the Bulls game. And, I saw that end of it. And then I saw my father over here who had a job and also was a hustler. And in the way you're thinking, that is what, he was truly a hustler. And I didn't know that really until I was older, but I knew he was out and he was making money outside of his day job. And he always said to me as a teenager how important it was to always have a hustle, to always be able to go out and get money in some way to take care of yourself and your family. And so since from very young, my first business when I was like 11, before dog walking was truly a business, a friend of my best friend and I would go out in the neighborhood and we would ring doorbells and ask people if they would pay us to walk their dogs. And so again, this was before that was like a business and people were doing that, because it was 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. But so we were innovators, we were innovative in that space, like really early in life. But it was really about the fact that we needed money. We wanted to go to the mall. We wanted to go out and do these things and go to parties and all these things. And our parents didn't really have the money, or wouldn't give us the money in some cases, for us to do the things that we wanted to do. And so it was instilled in me early to find ways to be successful, to find ways to do the things that you want to do in life. And that was what was important to me, and why I got out there, and was walking dogs at 11 years old, because it was just important to me to be able to make money and do the things I wanted to do. And so I think that it's important that kids see like what success can get you. The things that you want to do in life, you can do them, but you have to work and find a way to get money in order to do those things. So I just think that it's important that in the home and school and outside programs, the kids are shown that you can be successful and you can create what that success looks like. Like, everybody's success doesn't look like going to college and getting a degree. I thought I was going to go to college, get a degree, and make $100,000 like when I graduated. And came out of college making $35,000, right? So it was a huge wake-up call, right? And so then now I decided I'm going to bartend, I'm going to do all these other things, because that's not enough money, for me. But I wish someone would have set realistic expectations for me at a much younger age, so I wasn't 21 when I realized, like, I'm not going to make enough money, doing this. I'm going to have to be an entrepreneur for me to really make the money that I want to make to sustain the lifestyle I want to live. So I think it's also about being real with kids, especially once they become preteens and teenagers, just being real with them. Many times we're coddling them and talking to them like kids instead of exposing them to like real life is that you got to go out and find some money. Like, you got to go out and find a way to get money if these are the things that you want to do. And also, lastly, wrapping up, is that they're seeing these folks on social media, and this is not just kids. These are a lot of adults as well that are seeing people who are successful entrepreneurs on social media that are, with all the Gucci and the Prada and the, and taking trips and boats and, all these things. They're not seeing the grind of a true entrepreneur, and they need to understand that most of us are not going to be able to open boxes on YouTube and get millions of views and be able to sustain our lifestyles. There's a lot of work that happens for most business owners, and it doesn't happen overnight. And there are all these things that you have to do to actually prepare for the success. So again, just showing real life situations is so important, because many times they're just seeing the social media view. And again, I'm talking about adults as well, seeing this social media view of what entrepreneurship is, when it's really nights where you up to 2 a.m., you may not sleep at all, you're depressed, you're sad, you don't know if you're gonna make payroll, you like all of these those are the real things that happen with entrepreneurship. Most of us are not out here with, Bentleys and on yachts. So again, I'm always candid. So
I think that's a good segue into the next question that I want to ask, and I'm trying to share the sugar a little bit so everybody can chime in. So this year we celebrated the 100th anniversary. Excuse me, my grammar might not be the best, but you get what I'm saying. The 100th anniversary of the Tulsa massacre, right? So Justin, I'm gonna leave with you. What impact does this have on understanding the role in Black businesses in urban communities, looking then and now? And I know this is kind of a loaded question. I want you guys to put this on your brain, but if that massacre didn't happen, where would we be at as a Black community, and how can we, start that now and continue it on for the next 100 years? So I know that was a loaded question, but yeah.
Oh, well, happy Friday, y'all, because Eric came with the dissertation. Okay, so the Tulsa massacre, y'all, and and a lot of people are just now finding out about it, but some people have known for quite some time. That was an incredible blueprint of Black entrepreneurship, and often Black entrepreneurship is looked at as a threat to a lot of different communities. And so when that happened, it literally sent a shockwave in from my research to businesses like, well, if I do this, will they come and take it? Will they come and take me? Will they take me out? And so I do believe I don't it didn't hold for a super long time, but I think it did have a lot of entrepreneurs, Black communities pause and like really think like, okay, do we do this? Do we not do this? What are the consequences? And I believe that if it hadn't happened, then we would be further along in the process of cultural entrepreneurship and building up our own communities. I do believe integration would have perhaps eventually happened, but at that time you would have had Black minions of entrepreneurship going out to different areas because that happened in Oklahoma, but I'm pretty sure someone would have went to Tennessee and started a business, and someone would have come to California and would have perhaps crossed over and went to Canada, and like it would have just created, like it would have spread like California wildfire, like just going out businesses. And then one thing we know about Tulsa is that the businesses were family owned. It wasn't just like if Paula was my sister and Danielle was my sister. It's like we would have one family. We would have 3 different businesses. We wouldn't have all had to just work in banking because they looked at the different skill set of the different people. I think that's what we do so well. Like Danielle's like, whoa, well, I'm gonna walk dogs. Honestly, I'm allergic, not medically, but to animals and sometimes children. So it's like I would find another way of entrepreneurship. I'm a mathematician. I would have tutored kids in the neighborhood. So we would have had diversified entrepreneurship within different families. And so I think that would have been one of the incredible things if the Tulsa massacre didn't happen. Just one of many incredible entrepreneurship spread outs.
Eric, let me just add real quick. I think the answer for me was awareness. We were able to use every aspect of all of our social media, every social platform we have, to share the story. Many of our members are of a certain age group and demographics that they had not heard of the story. So we had the opportunity to at least put it out there, make them aware of it, allow them to think about the process of what others had gone through in order for them to be where they are. Back to your loaded question, where would we be had it not occurred? I have to believe very strongly in the resilience of African-American people. We have had to fight for everything we had. So I believe at some point we would have gotten to, I guess you can say, where we are today. But it would have taken time, it would have taken unity, and it would have taken a tremendous amount of faith. But I believe it still would have happened.
Hey, Don, were you asking a question regarding integration? Is what you were answering? Is that my understanding?
Eric was asking a question about the Tulsa massacre.
Well, keep going to mute here. My thinking in terms of integration.
They may have put you on mute, Charles.
Oh, that. Okay. If they don't want me to speak.
So Charles, there's going to be time allotted at the end for comments and questions. That's
right. Yeah, we're just trying to give the panelists an opportunity to chime in. So these questions are, primarily directed towards the panelists, the 5 panelists that we have. So we want to give them an opportunity to give their opinion. They're the main events, and then we'll give everybody else opportunity to ask them questions so that it would be fair for them to do. So that's just how we're doing it. I don't think we muted you on purpose, Charles, but I think that was just a little bit of divine intervention, maybe. But so I'll go ahead and move forward. Carlos, you spoke earlier about you being in the entertainment entrepreneurship realm. So since the pandemic, and of course things have opened back up, with some exceptions of vaccines, and we had masks and things like this. But how has your business changed for the better, or for the challenge over the pandemic?
Man, you got some really great questions. Who put these questions together, Eric?
It was a hidden hand, man. It was a hidden hand that got these questions.
Most definitely. A lot has changed. I think Miss Paula had touched on it a bit. A lot has changed, but a lot has made the value and the accessibility kind of like go up. Our events were like twice a year. So from it being so quiet, it made all of our consumers, our customers want our events even more. So once the pandemic somewhat slowed down, decreased, like people were constantly hitting us. When are you going to do another? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? And like I said before, it slowed down our money extremely. Like we didn't have any way to make money. Like right now, we don't have a website to where we sell our products on other than our merchandise. So from doing events to where we'll make $10,000 in a day and our attendees would make over 50 grand in 4 hours, like it completely shut off like everything. So one way that we really had to like figure it out was to just kind of figure out what was needed, what entrepreneurs wanted. We figured out more ways to kind of connect through social media, through emailing, just kind of creating an ecosystem, letting them know that we care about them while this pandemic is happening, and just kind of figuring out other ways to kind of like tweak our business to assist them and also assist us, and kind of it helped us prepare for what we're doing today. So I guess it just like it put fire under us to kind of like, okay, like this isn't happening today. So what are we going to do for the future? How are we going to continue to grow? How are we going to continue to help one another? Even though the pandemic like completely shut us out. We did an event during the pandemic actually. And like I said, they raised $50,000 in 4 hours out of 45 vendors, 45 Black owned businesses during the pandemic raised 50 grand. So that shows a lot that they wanted to come out, that they were missing something, that they actually like, we got spending dollars here in Nashville. So it just kind of like opened our eyes to say, okay, all right, we have a market here and we got to figure out how to keep everyone safe, keep everyone happy as well. So and keep our business afloat, because them bills still keep coming even if you don't have nobody. So yeah.
The mail didn't stop running, so that means the bills didn't stop getting in envelopes throughout the pandemic. So I definitely understand you on that. I know we're kind of pushing close on the time, and I got a lot more questions that I could ask. You guys been answering them great, but I'm gonna go ahead and open up the floor for some questions. Charles, I didn't want to take a stab at you, man. It wasn't anything personal. But if you guys have questions, I know we have a lot of attendees. If you guys want to unmute and ask a question, fire away for the attendees, or if you just have a perspective, we'd love to hear from you.
You know what, Eric, can I jump in and ask my fellow panelists a question? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
What do you see is the next potential hurdle that Black entrepreneurs are going to should already now start prepping for? As you know, one thing of being successful in business, and we're looking at it through the lens of Black folks, because that encompasses a lot more than just the traditional definition and means of entrepreneurship. But what should we already be forecasting? What should we already be looking for? Like, what have you seen in your industry? Like, is there something coming up in the digital realm? Is there something coming up in the realm of government? Is there something, like right now, we're now the last quarter of the year. Is there anything that we're forecasting that, oh, by February of 2022, you should already get started looking for this or that?
I think you said it, like the metaverse, the digital space, it's about to change the game. And as far as like Black entrepreneurs and as far as just Black people in general, I don't want to say we're behind in some of those aspects, but it's a barrier to entry. And a lot of us don't know how to get into those spaces. A lot of us are behind on merchandise or marketing and things of that nature. So like, even like for my business, we're about to open up an online store at the beginning of the year. So it's like, it's well overdue, but it's things like those that are going to like expand your business a little bit more. But also, say for instance, if this pandemic does continue to get worse, or who knows what may happen, we'll be right there inside of the on the internet, as they say.
Yeah, I think definitely the metaverse is going to be a thing, but digital marketing changes every day. So, and a lot of us are still in 2018, and it's anyway, or if that, so I think that we first have to catch up to today, or at least earlier this year, maybe, and in the digital space. E-commerce is so important, so huge for us. I think I'm not even really kind of thinking about the next hurdle, because I think we haven't really gotten over so many of them that have existed for years. And so I think we need to start to focus on policy, changing policy to help to close the wealth gap, help to close the capital gap. I think that it's important that we start to focus on how do we engage with banks, and specifically Black-owned banks. I think that it's important, when we talk about economic development in the Black community, and of course, Black-owned businesses and supporting them is the message that I give every day. But it doesn't end there, so I think there's so many existing hurdles that we need to figure out how do we come together and get over, and how do we own the buildings that our businesses are in. That's how we truly keep money in our community, because we can shop with the Black-owned businesses, we can bank with the Black-owned bank, but if we go and pay our mortgage and it's going to a white person that doesn't live in this community, it's going out the community anyway, right? And so we have to really, I didn't get to chime in on the Tulsa question, but it's important that we start to build our own, and that's the only way, and come together. And I was on another panel where they asked me if we had progressed, or if I felt like things were better or worse since Tulsa. And I can't really answer that. We have more access to more things, but the way we work together is so disjointed these days that I feel like that's just a hurdle within our own community we need to get over if we're going to truly close this wealth gap. And so I think that should really be our focus. You look at the numbers that they're giving on how many folks are going to be without a job because of technology by 2030, right? Like 45% of Black folks or so. It's like some astronomical number of Black and Hispanics that are not going to be employed in 2030 because technology is going to replace those jobs. So how do we offer those jobs? How do we keep those jobs within our community? Like how do we create jobs? And we can only do these things by coming together. So it's, again, the digital space is so important, and and everybody's not going to be a digital marketer and keep up with every digital marketing trend, but some of the big ones it's important for our businesses to get on board with. But I just really want our business owners to start to think about collective economics. How can we build together? How can we support Black-owned banks? How can we own the building that we're living in and we're operating our business out of? Because that's truly how we're going to build wealth in our community. So those are some of the existing hurdles I feel like we need to focus on, and also education and educating one another, because that I freely give away knowledge because I know it's so important for the growth of our businesses. So finding ways to educate each other is important as well.
Okay. Well, guys, this has been an outstanding panel discussion, very candid. I think all of the panelists gave good insight. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to host. Thank Ms. Paula Anderson for curating this event. Well, thank the guy, the graphic designer, Jonathan, for putting together a lot of the graphics that you guys seen as far as the flyers and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that we will do this again. So Justin, Danielle, Paula, Carlos, and Don, thank you guys, and all of the attendees. Thank you all as well for coming out.